It is July 20. It seems to me that there is no good weather for war. When the full-scale invasion began, it was very cold. It was February, a month known in Ukraine as furious, and it truly lived up to its name. It was bitterly cold. The ground was frozen so solid that we could not even dig small trenches into it. It was definitely terrible weather for war. We had to lie on the frozen ground for hours, waiting for the enemy. The cold was just as dangerous as the bullets. Catching pneumonia or some other serious illness was very, very easy. At that time, we comforted ourselves with the thought that the occupiers were faring even worse. Their uniforms, made from the cheapest materials, provided no protection from the wind and frost whatsoever. Unlike us, they could not warm up in heated buildings every few hours. They were forced to spend the nights in the freezing metal boxes of APCs and trucks, where they were killed like miserable pests. The spring came, bringing with it rain, mud, and sharp temperature changes. As I mentioned before, in spring every march into the field turned into a real struggle with mud. The dirt sticks to your uniform, your weapon, even to your helmet, so by evening you weigh several dozen more pounds than in the morning. The mud is harmful not only to people, the vehicles get damaged, get stuck in the fields, and become an easy target for the enemy. It's also not the best weather for the war, right? But it's not better for Russians either. They too are constantly covered in mud, and their cheap uniforms practically cling to them. Their vehicles get stuck as well. Additionally, they almost lose their advantage in the number of shells they can fire in a day. I mean, they continue to shoot as before, but a significant number of shells simply sink in the mud, causing no harm to the Ukrainian defenders. Autumn hardly differs from spring in war, except that cold days become more frequent and darkness sets in earlier. So let's talk about summer. It is usually really hot and sunny in Ukraine. By midday, sweat flows like a stream. If you have a bulletproof vest, helmet, weapon, ammunition, and everything else, you feel as you've just emerged from the sea. During summer, wherever there are soldiers in headquarters, trenches, or combat vehicles, there are huge reserves of water in plastic bottles. Thirst is constant, and this water is also used to wash off the dirt and dust from clothing and gear. When it is relatively cool and movement is possible without fear of heart stroke, it means that the Russians are also more active and more dangerous now. As I mentioned before, there is no good weather for war. War always entails pain and overcoming challenges. Therefore, it is best not to pay attention to the weather at all and focus on what is most important, the necessity of defeating the enemy and achieving victory.